In November 2020, after Lil Durk's best friend King Von started a fight with Savannah rapper Quando Rondo and ended up getting shot dead by his best friend Lil Tim, Quando Rondo and his entourage seemed marked for death amid rumors of $1 million bounty being placed on his head, which even Quando himself aggravated, pointing out this $1 million on his head in his song End of Story that dissed Von, where he taunted Lil Durk and told him he should increase the bounty to $8 million. The tension between Quando's crew and Lil Durk's OTF collective had reached a boiling point, and going forward, Quando needed to move cautiously and look over his shoulder everywhere he went, and it didn't take long from the death of King Von for Quando to begin to run into trouble, seemingly at the hands of his new enemies in Chicago. On November the 10th, 2020, reports surfaced that Quando Rondo had cancelled an upcoming show, with rumors that Lil Durk had bought all the tickets, leaving the venue empty, a move reminiscent of 50 Cent's infamous tactic during his beef with Ja Rule. Now, this may well have been a publicity stunt and not actually what happened, but following this and the potential threats against him, Quando would be seen cancelling numerous scheduled performances over the next several months. But his absence from the stage would only last until May the 1st, 2021, when he performed in Waycross, Georgia. However, the crowd at the show was very small, perhaps saying something about how his career was going at this point, or fans were aware of the danger surrounding him.
I ain't gonna lie, man, my show was really big, you feel me? People in this, but I know I got a lot of shit going on, you feel me? But I still appreciate everybody who came out. I'm gonna run this like it's 10,000 people in here. Come on, shit.
Because after leaving the venue, Quando and his entourage would be targeted in an apparent assassination attempt at a Circle K gas station, where over 100 shots would be fired at their vehicles, though luckily, Quando would escape unscathed. Notably, this incident took place at a gas station, something that was apparently becoming a pattern for Lil Durk's enemies. I mentioned the song Who Wants Smoke, where Lil Durk rapped about people dying pumping gas. It's highly possible that this might have been a reference to Quando and the attempt on his life, as well as the people that were allegedly killed in revenge for D-Thang's murder. The tension between OTF and NBA, the label that Quando was signed to under his mentor Youngboy, would once again escalate in January 2022 when NBA Youngboy released his song Bring the Hook, a direct diss aimed at Lil Durk, OTF, and O-Block. The track included inflammatory lines like Youngboy rapping how he's rolling an O-Block pack, a clear reference to Von's death, before also directly referring to him getting killed down in Atlanta. The song's disrespectful tone would leave the fans anticipating Durk's response, which would ultimately come in the form of the track Aha, released on February 22nd, 2022. As we've already discussed this song in the context of Lil Durk allegedly avenging his brother D-Thang, the song would also be a veiled diss towards Quando Rondo too, hinting towards being behind his recent shooting, as well as foreshadowing future attempts on his life. Durk would rap the now prophetic bar that his ops are dropping locations and he's getting the job done, and that OTF is not about to do any tweeting because they're sliding, and because of that, the feds are coming. Durk would also hint at Von's romantic entanglements with Youngboy's baby mother, Jania Michelle, rapping how Von was messing with Youngboy's girl and how Youngboy and his artists are all Von's sons, before mentioning how he warned Von about staying away from women who exploit their looks doing S-work online, this likely being a diss towards Jania, who had been seemingly posting this kind of content at the time. Some of the lyrics in Aha would also hint that Durk may have already slid for someone, though without finding his intended target, as he would criticize his ops for hiding behind social media, reinforcing this sentiment by describing how deserted the areas he had targeted had become, implying that his rivals were now nowhere to be found. After the song's release, the rap world would brace for Youngboy's response, which came only hours later in the form of the track I Hate Youngboy. Youngboy would mock King Von's death with the line clean up on aisle O, Young and Let That Chopper Blow, referencing how Lil Tim shot Von. He would also target Durk's fiancée, India Royale, rapping how Durk had called him a but that description fit better to her. Youngboy would even shout out one of O-Block's biggest enemies, FBG Wooski, by rapping how he was bumping Wooski's song at his home, the song in question likely being Wooski's infamous diss song, The Computers Remix. Now, Youngboy's highly disrespectful track would leave fans and industry insiders on edge, worried about how this already volatile feud might escalate, and at this point, even the podcasters were warning Durk not to escalate things. On March the 10th, 2022, Durk would appear on leading hip-hop podcast $1 Million Worth of Game with street veteran hosts Gilly and Wallow. In the episode, Wallow would warn Durk and his friends not to crash out on their incredible career opportunities chasing revenge in the streets, firstly getting emotional, keeping it real with the room, and telling the OTF members that some of them might not be alive next year or even next week.
Listen, we gonna be real, man. I gotta say this, because some of y'all in this room, y'all might not see next year, y'all might not see next week, and niggas ain't saying that to y'all because a lot of y'all niggas ain't got no fathers and none of that. So my position is here and here or some.
Gilly would go on to speak prophetically, reminding Durk how happy he was after his father came home from his 27-year sentence because he had missed him so much, and warning him not to do the same to his own children.
He happy a grown man, and he happy that his dad back. Grown, he's like, damn, because he missed that shit. And I know a lot of that gave y'all game, they gave y'all game that was beneficial to them and it wasn't beneficial to y'all, and it put y'all in a fucked up position in life. Because we gotta get it right so we can take care of these babies. The OGs, when they see you, you know what they say? You rhyme just like your daddy. Your daddy homies is not in position, they're just out here living off of memories. When them niggas see you, they can't give you no game because they on drugs or they ain't in position. So they'll just tell you some shit, you just like your daddy. And the sad thing is you just like your daddy. You ain't never get a chance to get another life, man. It's a real world is waiting for y'all. And I'm telling you, man, these babies and these women, they depending on y'all.
Wallow would warn Durk and his friends to think beyond their neighborhood and make the most of the opportunity they had.
And that's why every time y'all go out with him on tour or go somewhere, take advantage of what you're seeing, man. That exposure would change your mind.
Wallow would then seemingly allude to the death of Von, D-Thang, and other people close to Durk, telling Durk he also has over 30 friends that he's lost to the streets, including his brother, but he didn't throw his life away so that he could be around to support their families.
I can name 20, 30 of my homies is dead. I'm here though, and I'm gonna say some shit that, like, this is documented. My brother died in my grandma's arms, but I had to leave. I had to let that shit go. And when I let that shit go, I started to grow. And I started to glow. And now I'm here today, and it was harder than a motherfucker, man. Take care of my mama and my grandmama.
Talk to him. Sure.
Because I forgave my brother killer, but you know, I understand. I understand what y'all going through. But I love all you young here, and I mean that.
Quite frankly, Durk seemed unmoved by Wallow's emotional speech, and after, he seemed like he didn't quite know what to do, just calling the show crazy.
It's so crazy. Yeah, this really dropping tears for this like, for real, like.
It would then be Gilly's turn to play prophet, as he remembers Wallow telling him about seeing defeated men in jail after losing their murder cases and realizing they'd thrown their whole lives away.
They be done. Them just all of life done left them. Them come from that courtroom. Them done got that 111 years. Be done, cuz. You know what I'm saying?
Big responsibility for
right,
it.
Man.
You know, like you gonna open a lot of lives up, man. You give my hope when you make it.
However, noticeably, this interview was conducted surrounded by goons, seemingly an homage to King Von's infamous video where he brought wads of cash back to his hood in O-Block, cash that was later rumored to have been money that wound up being the bounty on FBG Duck's head. In this interview, Lil Durk took things a step further, bringing $1 million cash to $1 million worth of game and laying out an entire $1 million in bills out on the table throughout the interview.
He came to $1 million worth of game
with $1 million.
With $1 million, man.
Listen, man, it's going down.
Count it. Count they shit.
No, we ain't got time for that. That'll be a whole nother show. You know what I mean?
This was an intimidating show of force, and to me, it was a coded message to Quando Rondo that hinted towards the $1 million that had been placed on his head and the goons surrounding Durk who would get the job done, just like Von had. And to top it all off, an iced out D-Thang piece would sit on top of the money, making it very clear what Lil Durk's ambitions were. Funnily enough, elsewhere in the interview, Lil Durk would introduce some of the people who would later be charged with him in the murder for hire case, including OTF DD, who Durk gleefully introduced as Big Threat, causing ruckus in the room, as well as TTE-44 and TTE-KK.
Oh, you know, OTF DD and this, man, I'm coming out soon for sure.
Threat.
The threat. Big threat.
Threat.
I don't know what the going on. Everyday turkey season around this.
You know a TTE-44, man. All Tay-Town, man. Band gang, who they gang?
TTE-KK and dumb gang. Dumb.
Dummy. Dumb.
KK even did a little freestyle saying that he'll shoot up the block, with Durk unable to contain himself, blurting out facts after he said it.
Time to get suited up, we spin your block, we shoot it up. Don't get no we doing all this talking, this shit ain't new to us.
Clearly, despite the OG advice, revenge was still very much on Durk's mind as 2022 went on, and it seemed that those who had been close to Von were plotting on infiltrating Quando's feuds in his native Savannah too. In May 2022, O-Block members are suspiciously seen on IG Live with Quando Rondo's main enemy from Savannah, the Section 8 kids, specifically Gutter. Entering summer, it was clear that Durk and Von's friends were still plotting on Rondo and wanted the whole world to know it. By June 2022, Durk continued the back and forth with his feature on Boston Richie's track Keep Dissing 2, where he rapped how he's trying to tell someone, without saying too much, that they're trying to kill him, another clear shot at the people behind Von's death, whilst also painting a menacing picture about him and Von, saying how Von has bodies and that he's a demon child, so Durk is brothers to a devil. Durk might not have realized just how deep these lyrics were at the time, but he was indeed deeply invested in avenging his evil twin's life, and it would seem that only within months of saying on the song how he was trying to nail his enemy, soon he would get the call and find out the location of the very man King Von was trying to fight with the night he lost his life. And seemingly, exactly like FBG Duck, Quando and his entourage would be the subject of a broad daylight assassination attempt, but the only thing that was different is that this time it took place in California. From what we know at the time, on August the 18th, 2022, Quando Rondo and his close associate and cousin Lil Pab were in Los Angeles, California. Unbeknownst to them, their location was leaked to members of Lil Durk's OTF collective by an unnamed co-conspirator known only at this stage as Number 4. According to the indictment, on August the 18th, 2022, Durk and a member of his OTF collective named Vonnie would fly from Miami to Los Angeles on a private jet to coordinate the murder. Upon arrival, Lil Durk would instruct OTF Boogie to travel to Southern California California, whilst OTF DD recruited 2 more shooters named Flocker and Brown Eyes to join the plot, providing their biographical information so that flights could be booked under their names. Lil Durk would apparently even text a warning not to book any flights under names directly linked to him, but this was either ignored or sent too late, as an OTF-linked credit card would indeed be used to purchase flights for DD, Flocker, Brown Eyes, Boogie, and another co-conspirator to travel from Chicago to San Diego on August the 18th. OTF Boogie and others confirmed their travel plans through text messages, including one message from OTF DD to someone on Instagram stating, "On my way to LA." Upon their arrival in Southern California, the group traveled by car to meet OTF Vonnie in Los Angeles. Vonnie would then purchase 4 black ski masks in cash and use another OTF credit card to rent a hotel room at the Universal City Hotel for the group. At this meeting, Vonnie supplied the team with firearms, including fully automatic weapons, and secured 2 cars for their use, a white BMW sedan and a white Infiniti sedan with a fake license plate. The vehicles were then used to follow and track Quando Rondo's movements throughout Los Angeles, including to a hotel in downtown Los Angeles where he was staying, and the next day, on August 19th, 2022, the group would follow Quando's black Escalade to several locations, including a dispensary on Flower Street and a clothing store on Melrose Avenue. They would track the Escalade to a gas station on Beverly Boulevard, where OTF Boogie drove the Infiniti into an alley behind the station and parked up. Lil Pab and Quando were sitting in the back of a parked tinted black Cadillac Escalade getting some gas on 8489 Beverly Boulevard. As the car was filling up with fuel, just mere seconds later, a flurry of shots would ring out, targeting any and everyone around that car, with law enforcement recovering 18 shell casings on the scene.
It all started at this mobile gas station at 5:30 Friday evening. LAPD says witnesses heard multiple gunshots, then watched a couple cars zoom off. 3 people in one car shot at this black Cadillac Escalade. It's unclear if those inside shot back.
Can I get some space, please?
It ended at Santa Monica Boulevard. Deputies found it peppered with bullet holes and a shattered window. One man inside, a member of Rondo's entourage, had been shot. A 23-year-old was taken to the hospital where he died.
The shooting itself took place just before 5:30 p.m. at a mobile gas station near the popular Los Angeles tourist destination, the Beverly Center. According to police, 3 masked gunmen got out of a white car in dark clothing, with a later indictment identifying Flacker, Brown Eyes, and an unnamed shooter opening fire on Quando's car using firearms provided by Vonnie, including a fully automatic weapon. These gunshots would ultimately hit Lil Pab, who was standing next to Quando's car pumping gas at this point. The attack was described as a professional hit, occurring without any prior argument or confrontation, and after the shooting, the attackers fled the scene in the Infiniti that was being driven by Boogie. After being shot at, Quando's entourage jumped back in the car and attempted to flee, driving a short distance before pulling over to seek medical attention for Lil Pab, and despite efforts to save him, Pab would unfortunately succumb to his injuries and pass away. But to make matters worse, the dramatic scene was captured by bystanders, with footage of Quando breaking down emotionally and screaming no as Pab was taken from the vehicle, with this tragic scene being recorded and broadcast on the news where it ultimately went viral. While Quando was screaming over Pab's dead body, the shooters were celebrating and negotiating their payment, since they didn't actually kill Quando, the intended target. Later that day, the group, including Vonnie, DD, Flucker, Brown Eyes, Boogie, and the co-conspirator, would gather at an In-N-Out restaurant to discuss the attack and the payments for the shooters. Once again, using an OTF credit card, flights were booked for the group to return to Chicago from San Diego, and they flew back that same evening. And after this, other OTF members would post on social media indicating the group's responsibility for the murder, including one post revealing that Pab died of a headshot seemingly before the news even reported it, and another OTF affiliate, Lil Vonnie, tagging Quando and making fun of Pab's death on Instagram. Meanwhile, following the murder of Lil Pab, Quando Rondo announced that he was dropping his affiliation with the Rolling 60s Crips, signaling his intention to step away from gang life. He declared on social media that he was laying down his neighborhood Crip flag and that he wanted to focus on his family and loved ones rather than gangbanging. However, the move was met with backlash from other Crip members, some of whom criticized his departure as a sign of weakness. But despite the criticism, Quando stood by his decision, emphasizing that he no longer wanted to be involved in the gang conflicts that had claimed the life of his close friend Lil Pab. But while Quando was attempting to lie low and remove himself from the gangs and conflicts that had claimed the life of his friend, back on Durk's side, having now apparently avenged King Von's death, even with the murder of an innocent affiliate who was just there with Quando, it would seem that Durk and his OTF shooters at this point felt completely untouchable. And after enduring years of slide for Von comments, this apparent get back would be too much for Durk not to mock or comment on. Despite what's now being referred to as an incredibly sloppy and reckless hit with a paper trail that's completely unheard of, from here, over the next 2 years, Lil Durk and his OTF affiliates would go on what I can only describe as a self-snitching extravaganza, releasing song after song and full-blown projects, seemingly claiming responsibility for this murder and boasting about exactly what had gone down that day. As with other murders, Lil Pab's murder would be the subject of many disses, with an OTF group mixtape titled Loyal Bros 2 being released on the 16th of December 2022, just 4 months after the murder of Lil Pab. But beyond the title, the project itself is wall-to-wall with incriminating lyrics that that not only hint towards Durk's involvement, but track by track paints a vivid picture of exactly how the events unfolded, with Durk and his collaborators making countless references to the crime and its specific details, openly claiming responsibility for the whole thing. On the opening track titled Set It Off, Durk makes an interesting comment, seemingly suggesting that he recruits killers for his business, and recounts conversations with members telling him they don't want to kill people, so Durk instead sets them up with different roles in the business, like running real estate. In other lines, Durk makes ambiguous references to his ops getting caught slipping, and in the hook, he raps about giving his friends guns and asking them to shoot for him. In verse 2, he drops a bar saying one of his ops couldn't read his last DM because he was killed, something that some people have suggested is a reference to the murder of FBG Cash. But this is followed by another ambiguous bar where Durk says that he told his shooters to spin every block until their target is dead, and that somebody was due to be killed next, but he couldn't get to them, with some suggesting that this was in fact a reference to King Von's actual killer, Lil Tim, who was arrested in October 2022. The suggestion being that Durk's next murder for hire would have been Tim, but since he was in jail, they couldn't get to him. Then, on the second track, titled Mad Max featuring Future, in a bizarre display, Future seemingly opens his verse with a series of lines that again eerily mirror the exact details of Lil Durk's case, with Future rapping his lil bro, presumably Durk, drops bags and gets people killed and has people shot through the windows of their cars, and referencing that people get money put on their heads for messing with Durk. And Future even ends his verse with a jaw-dropping bit of foreshadowing, saying ain't no Rico case gonna stop another body dropping, before asking how many bodies they have. The hook of the song would see Durk and Future likening their shooters running up on people and killing them to be similar to the movie Mad Max. And then in Durk's verse, he would go on an absolute rampage of self-snitching, boldly saying that he told Young Thug everybody that he'd shot and hinting that he could have been part of that Rico case that Thug caught if the feds were recording what he said. Durk then seemingly references the murder of Quando's cousin Lil Pab, despite him actually not being involved in the death of Von, saying that when it's war, you don't see famous names being killed, but they still try and kill everyone around their targets. Durk then references the rumors that he was involved in the Pab murder, saying that he doesn't admit to crimes, but the blogs seem to accuse him as soon as people die, and saying that he would never admit to murder and is happy that other people are claiming that body, a line which I think refers to an alternative narrative that was spread around, suggesting that Lil Pab was actually killed by drug dealers that he ran off on. Of course, when the indictment dropped, it seemed pretty clear that that was cap. Durk would then go on to directly deny blackballing Quando Rondo from the record industry and casting doubt on his criminal past, before Durk says that he is the person who chooses if people live or get killed. He later appears to reference two details from the murder of Lil Pab, saying the Switch is bound to kill their ops, Free McAdoo, a 600 member who committed numerous murders, and then saying the chilling and self-incriminating line, "We're flying to get you." Now, perhaps this could be interpreted as saying that he would fly to collect Mac from jail if he was ever released, but to me, I think it's a different bar, where Durk is just mentioning one of his killers and then moving on to another line where he's self-incriminating himself, admitting that he will fly his shooters out to kill you, just like he did to Lil Pab. This is followed by another dark line where Durk says, "You ain't know we were gonna get you, did you?" On the next track, Hanging with Wolves, Durk would make some interesting references to his life in this time. In one bar, he claims that he was out of town and heard a rumor that he was wanted for murder, pretty much speaking what ended up happening into existence. Durk went on to make references to Youngboy, whose original beef with King Von kicked off this whole thing, with Quando actually being one of Youngboy's artists signed to his label, and Durk would refer to earlier comments suggesting that Youngboy had told the world that they were beefing and that he tried to squash the war. Then, at the end of his second verse, he drops another insane piece of foreshadowing, saying that he's the type of person to get on a flight with a warrant and that the police have got to catch him, something that he indeed tried to do. On a later track called For Real that features OTF member Booney Mo, he would reveal that he sells drugs to make money while his friends do the murders. In a later lyric, he outright says that his friends kill the ops and says that they get paid $10,000 to spin, and saying specifically that they get $20,000 if they kill one of the target's friends, and ending the song saying all his friends kill people for real if you play with them. A later track that featured Booker 600 and Lil Durk had a peculiar title, Feed 'em Addies. Now this title is a slick double entendre referring to giving their killers both Adderalls to focus on the murders that they've been tasked to do, and giving them the addresses or addies of their rivals to find them and kill them, something made explicit by the lyrics. And Booker goes on to rap that somebody's head got left on the wall for King Von. Then in Durk's verse, he would boast about having $50 million liquid and going on to rap an eyebrow-raising bar saying that he smashed somebody's nose and that in his hood, he's Pablo. Likely a reference to Pablo Escobar, but knowing Durk's lyrical abilities, it wouldn't surprise me if this was another coded reference to Lil Pab, whose nickname was also Pablo. He then goes on to drop a series of bars that sound to me like they're directly referencing Lil Pab's murder, saying that he doesn't speak on murders or people trolling, and seemingly referencing Quando's relationship being signed to Youngboy's label, saying why you signed to the dudes that purged it. Then rapping the brutal lyric referring to the murder of Pab, and Quando's reaction being broadcast on the news, saying, "When I seen he died, I kept scrolling, and admitting that he's into beef with someone's friend, another reference to Youngboy and Quando's relationship. The next track is seemingly another bold admission of the OTF crew's activities in the streets, the aptly titled track We Did It. This sees Booney Mo from OTF rapping back to back with a posthumous verse and ad-libs from none other than King Von, whose death sparked this deadly crime spree. The song featured a brazen chorus which saw Booney Mo rapping repeatedly, "They know that we did it," whilst backed up by King Von ad-libs. "What did you guys do, Booney?" Booney would then repeat the line, this time following the line about having diamonds on his chain, saying that they know we winning, with that line about winning followed by another King Von ad-lib saying, "They know." He goes on to rap, "You know how we're spinning," and naming what guns they use, and saying if they catch an op, you know we're gonna get them. And he would end the hook saying that now they're smoking on their ops. In the verse, he mentions OTF DD or D-Ski locating ops for the gang and chasing ops in rental cars, which according to the indictment happened. And he would even end his verse with a buffet of self-incrimination, rapping that he pays his shorties to slide and that he bets they're going to get you, following that up saying OTF, that's mob ties, ain't nothing realer. The second verse was a posthumous King Von verse, where in the final line, as Von has done countless times before, admitting to murder, saying that he ducked that sentence, but they know I did it. Now, I'm sure people might argue that this is an ambiguous song which could be referring to absolutely anything, but to me, the fact that this project and song dropped just 4 months after the supposed murder that was Get Back for King Von, combining this song with the King Von adlibs and a posthumous verse from Von, and repeatedly using the brazen line, "You know that we did it," to me, makes me think that the very purpose of this song was indeed to covertly confirm to the whole world that OTF did indeed kill Pab for Von so that they could brag about it. The next track would feature OTF DD, or D-Ski, which you'll likely know is one of the members who was central to the alleged murder for hire plot and is all over that indictment. And on the track Seen It All, DD would commence with another incredibly self-incriminating verse, rapping that his team do hits regardless, and rapping that they're going to risk it all and put their ops in coffins for their friends, rapping that they stalk their ops in traffic, something alleged in the indictment with photographic evidence, and saying that they leave their ops on stretchers. And in his verse, continuing the self-snitching, rapping that they bully their ops with switches and shoot the fastest, and rapping how they don't give their enemies passes, they walk them down or kill them. Even admitting that his friends stood on business or got vengeance, and he raps they're coming to get you, and that their bullets will leave you dead in public. And I don't know if it gets more public than outside the Beverly Center. But then on the next track, Ain't Hidin', OTF's Chief Wook would continue to rap bars that seem to hint at OTF's deadly activities in the streets, saying that their lil bros hop out of cars and chase people and give their ops facelifts. Next on the project is the song Savage Stuff, where OTF frontliner Doody Low would continue to openly tell the world about his gang's murders, saying that he's with real killers who up the murder rate. A later track with the very ironic title Block is Hot would see Durk and DD going back and forth together on the same song, and Durk would start his verse with more jaw-dropping lyrics, rapping that his shorties hop out of cars, shoot people 4 times, and send them to the morgue. Durk would then go on to snitch on himself to an alarming degree, rapping that he's got money on people's heads and that he tells his people to grab the cars and shoot them. He would then reference an apparent attempt by Quando Rondo calling for peace in leaked DMs that circulated online, rapping that they were scared and wanted peace, but Durk rejected it. And Durk would go on to rap that if they can't catch who they want when they ride past, then they'll get his friend, likely another reference to Lil Pab. Durk would then go on to boast that he could be outside by himself, but no one would have a chance to get him, and that he rolls with OTF DD when it comes to the war on the block. And Durk ends his verse with haunting bars where he says that he's the reason that you got shot and that his music is what you hear when you die. Then in verse 2, DD would jump on the mic and raps lyrics which quite frankly are a prosecutor's wet dream, rapping that he's a threat, warning his ops not to get caught lacking or that he will leave you like the last person he caught. Then going on to rap how did his ops die, and answering that the bullets ate his face and left him dead on arrival. DD would rap that knowing how to die is the only thing that his ops can beat them at, and at the end of the verse, in a line that will probably come back to haunt him, rapping that his friends face murders and beat the state charges. Unfortunately, with songs like this out, it's incredibly hard to imagine DD beating the state on these charges. Now the following song would be titled Thug Life and features OTF veterans Chief Wook and Doody Low, along with some very interesting lyrics, with a line in the second verse that said, "Your cousin with you claiming he innocent, he's still getting shot," which sounds to me like it could be a direct reference to Lil Pab, who is indeed Quando's cousin, although at the time of the murder, many people reported that he was simply Quando's friend. The next track takes the irony to a whole new level, a song titled Federal Freestyle, featuring none other than OTF Jam, OTF's suspected resident informant. Now there's nothing super incriminating in this song, but these lyrics and OTF Jam's backstory as the alleged informant is something I'll be breaking down in greater detail another time. But later on the project, Durk drops perhaps the single most incriminating song on the entire project, a track titled Threats to Everybody. Durk opens the song saying that by spending money, he can have new killers who you have never seen before come outside, rapping that he puts belts to his ops and that he has his killers shoot so much that their fingers angers her. He references both OTF Jam and OTF DD, saying that he bought them both the same gun. And then, in another absolutely incredible display of detailed self-snitching, Durk references shootings at gas stations, suggesting that his ops want to avoid stopping to refuel, and later saying that if he finds out his ops are outside, he wants his shooters to pull up on them curbside. This actually ended up being the song that included the bold lyric about leaving FBG Cash dead by the tree, and Durk would end the song saying that they should have killed him sooner. On the next track, titled Who Are You, Doody Low would reference King Von, saying that he has killers that will murder in exchange for a recorded rap verse, which could refer to Doody or Durk himself, which ironically matches up with the accusation in the indictment that OTF members were actually encouraged to kill in exchange for support in their rap careers. Before Doody goes on to say that they killed someone and put them in the dirt, and that dissing King Von will indeed get you killed. Now, a lot of people will argue that these lyrics don't prove anything, and that these could all be generic references to the street life, but I do not buy it. People often argue that rap lyrics shouldn't be used as evidence in court, often citing Bob Marley's I Shot the Sheriff, but no sheriffs got murdered on camera, and the sheriff's deputy was not on the news screaming no. To me, this project was a bold declaration by Lil Durk and the wider OTF to take credit for these heinous and public crimes. This was the first project released since the murder of Lil Pab, the apparent revenge attack for Von's murder. How many times had Durk been baited in comments with people saying slide for Von? Well, it seemed that he'd finally done it, and OTF quite literally used this whole album, the songs and lyrics, to tell the world we did it. To me, Loyal Bros 2 might well go down as one of the most incriminating rap projects in music history, and it really just goes to show you just how inexplicably stupid some of these gangster rappers can be when it comes to admitting crimes in their music. I'm genuinely baffled as to why the people involved in this alleged crime, specifically Lil Durk and OTF DD, would be so reckless as to release a project with such specific details about these crimes that they allegedly really did. Lines about paying for hits, renting cars, flying shooters out, scrolling past the news about your murdered enemies being on the news, and quite literally saying we did it is mind-boggling. But this wasn't the end. In fact, it was only the beginning, and as time went on, Durk and the OTF crew would continue to self-incriminate and openly rap chilling details that would connect them to this crime. As I said at the start, this is only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the insane depths of the self-incrimination that Durk and his OTF crew did. After Loyal Bros 2, perhaps the single most self-incriminating lyric would come in the form of a feature that Durk dropped on the song Wonderful Wayne and Jackie Boy off of Babyface Ray's album MOB that dropped on December the 2nd, 2022. And in his feature, Lil Durk would rap the jaw-dropping lines, got location, go, go, green light, go, 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 look on the news and see your son screaming no, no. Screaming no is obviously a direct and incredibly incriminating diss towards Quando Rondo, as it directly refers to that famous clip of him outside the class screaming no, looking at the body of his cousin that had just been shot. And Durk didn't stop there, because all of that was capped off with one final lyric referencing the fact that an innocent Pab was the one killed, with Durk saying, and all them people hanging with him, if you know, you know. This was a bold message and didn't go unnoticed by prosecutors, who would eventually include these specific lyrics in the indictment against Durk, although Durk's lawyers would later claim that the song had in fact been recorded already in January 2022, many months before the hit, the name of the song at the time being Toxic. But at least for the moment, this evidence seems pretty questionable at best, based on just a screenshot of a random file. In my personal opinion, I think this could well be a complete lie, using metadata from before the crime to make it seem as if these lyrics were a coincidence. The fact is, these lyrics were released after the Lil Pab murder and describe the circumstances of it with chilling accuracy, and showing a screenshot of the day that the song's file was created doesn't cancel the fact that Durk chose to release this song quite literally months after the murder, describing it perfectly. Durk's apparent role as the orchestrator for the Get Back for Von was an open secret in the rap game at this point. In fact, rapper, podcaster, and friend of Durk's, Brick Baby, would confirm that Durk had slid for Von during a No Jumper interview.
Now it's like, oh, they did something. Oh, slide for him. Oh, you a
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Slide for Von, right? Yeah.
They say you can't say that no more.
Why? Oh, yeah, because of... Wait, no. Like, who died?
You can't say that no more.
Oh, because of FBG Cash? Or who?
Nah, because Lil Pab.
Oh, what's that?
But I'm just saying, they just say you can't say that no more.
And as time went on, Durk and the OTF crew would continue to self-incriminate and openly rap chilling details that would connect them to the crime. On the 23rd of May 2023, Durk would release a podcast interview with DJ Academics on his Spotify-powered Off The Record podcast, later uploaded to YouTube under the title Lil Durk, Realest Interview Ever. And in it, Durk would seemingly hint towards having avenged King Von, saying for some reason, people have stopped commenting Slide for Von, with the exchange with Academics being nothing short of creepy.
I feel like you know how to pick with people. You're the worst type of person. You see, at least with like 6ix9ine, he's like, like he's clearly making fun of you. You like,
I ain't gonna lie, like I be dead serious, like that's why I try not to do too much. I be dead serious, and it's like the people around me is even worse than me. So it's like, that's why I said the situation, I was like, I'd be the one to be like, man, I'm gonna take a picture of Soulja Boy and be funny. If I want that type of guy, it would have been like, then they would have whooped this. Like, you know what I'm saying?
All right.
Like, I don't take that man serious. The man did not do nothing to Von. The man friends did. Crown Wana got his ass whooped. He was there.
He didn't get beat up.
Huh? Pull up on.
Oh yeah. You get triggered by the
beat
slide.
the shit out of this little ass, man. What are you talking
triggered
about?
by the slide for Von comments. They used to say it, but you also mentioned a song. They be like, they be saying slide for Von. I think they trolling me. Yo, by the way, that song was fire. I ain't gonna lie.
For some reason, I just don't see them comments no more. For some odd reason, I don't know. Might be the water. You be seeing them comments a lot?
They kind of chilled out a little bit.
I wonder why. We here though. We different in Iraq.
I feel like you're speaking in parables. I'm trying to like decode it a little bit, but it's.
We have nothing to do with nothing. I'm saying that's like me just claiming something I want to.
I feel like you was troll right there. No,
I never troll him. He got beat up too bad. He got his ass whooped.
So you're not condoning more violence continuing?
For what? Everybody you telling me about don't matter.
Like I feel like. I can't tell if you have a good poker face. All right, man.
Elsewhere in the interview, Durk brushed off Quando Rondo and Lil Tim, saying that all the real gangsters were hurt by the fact that, in his words, King Von was killed by a nerd.
Von put the Floyd Mayweather on the motherfucker, and that happened. That shit, everybody else, like when a real gangster, you know what I mean? When a real gangster get took out by like a nerd type.
This interview would pretty much be the biggest promo piece in anticipation of Durk's 8th studio album, Almost Healed, released on the 26th of May 2023. Debuting at number 3 on the Billboard charts, this project would have a cohesive theme and an eye-catching artwork that depicted Durk crying blood with a bandage covering his face, this seemingly being a reference to his mindset at the time, declaring that he had almost healed from the many traumas he'd suffered. Almost, but not quite. Now, I'd offer a darker interpretation, as Durk actually suggesting that he's almost fulfilled his needs to seek revenge for those he'd lost, but perhaps hinting that he was still dangerous and not done. The opening track of Almost Healed, titled Therapy Session, would set a reflective tone for the album. It featured a skit with Alicia Keys acting as a therapist for Lil Durk, which immediately emphasized the themes of vulnerability and self-reflection that ran throughout the project. Alicia Keys addresses Durk's traumatic past, directly mentioning the loss of King Von in November 2020 and his brother D-Thang in June 2021. Keys would ask how Durk feels about the rap beef, being a warrior, a leader in the rap industry, and the voice in the community, essentially setting up the themes of the album and Durk's plans to rap candidly about these topics, saying, "You can feel safe in this room to express your vulnerabilities and emotions." The next track, Pellicoat, would appear to hint towards Durk's status as a threat, striking fear into his enemies. Durk would open with the line, "They scared to come outside," which became a recurring refrain throughout the song, a lyric which was actually a nod to the chorus of Mo3's hit song Outside. Durk would then drop an ironic line, which if I'm completely honest, I think is aimed at literally me, rapping how YouTubers are trying to paint a picture of him, but warning that it doesn't last. Now, having made a series of videos about Durk's life and his past at this point, not to mention the countless other channels who at this point had long been speculating on Durk's role in these recent murders, clearly Durk was frustrated with the new media, having picked up some of the clues that he was leaving behind after committing crimes. But this was nothing new. Durk had dissed us YouTube documentary makers before, rapping on the song Golden Child that the feds are only able to crack these cases with the help of YouTube videos, which at the time people believed was aimed at academics and me. Anyway, back to Pellicoat, and after dissing YouTubers for misportraying him, Durk appears to go on to say that he's silent about violence, but is glad that someone is no longer here, simultaneously saying he doesn't tell on himself, but then alluding to having gotten rid of people. Later in the track, he would also touch on snitching's prevalence in the streets, mentioning that even killers with numerous bodies to their names can still turn into snitches. Later, Durk raps that he never posts guns used in crimes on his social media because he knows the authorities are watching, and later, pretty much openly saying that he got back and got his revenge. And then, in a line that appeared to respond to 6ix9ine and the Slide for Von slogan, rapping that 6ix9ine and others had told Durk to slide and that he wouldn't do it purely for fame. Durk would in the third verse directly reference Quando Rondo, saying that Von died because he beat up a goofy and that the drama had nothing to do with Von's relationship with Asian Doll. Durk would end the track on a somber note, saying that every morning he plays to Allah for forgiveness for the things that he had done. Interestingly, Islam had become a big part of Durk's life by this point. On the track Mad Max, Durk even references praying on the phone with an imam. Seemingly influenced by his Muslim father after his release from jail, Durk would begin to take religion more seriously and build it into his brand, even changing his name legally from Durk Banks to Mustafa Abdul Malak, potentially in hopes of distancing himself from his old self, Durk Banks, the given name that would ultimately end up on the indictment. The third track on Almost Healed was the smash hit All My Life with J. Cole. The song was an effort by Durk to clean up his image and spread an inspirational message to the youth, with bars where Durk bragged about having made it out the streets, rubbing shoulders with the mayor and politicians, and saying that you can't judge his past anymore. And the choir-assisted hook was an inspirational anthem that could resonate with the whole world, as Durk raps how his whole life, people have tried to keep him down, but they can never break his spirit. The hook was infectious and it had hit song written all over it. All My Life would hit number 2 on the Billboard charts, matching his earlier hit with Drake as his top charting track, as well as being an international hit too, landing on charts in 18 different countries. It was an industry favorite as well, winning the 2024 Grammy for Best Melodic Rap Performance.
And the Grammy goes to All My Life, Little Durk featuring J. Cole.
Please welcome to the stage Lil Durk, who is the Grammy winner for All My Life, Best Melodic Rap Performance.
Appreciate y'all.
Hey, Lil Durk, congratulations on your award. I just want to know, are the prices going up now that you have your Grammy?
I ain't even checked my phone yet. I know it is.
All My Life was a humongous hit, but if you ask me, there was something quite dark going on in J. Cole's verse, as J. Cole drops a number of bars and metaphors that when you look back at them now appear to coincidentally echo Lil Durk's Future perfectly. Just like how Future had seemingly rapped things that describe the crimes that Durk was allegedly involved in before, J. Cole makes a series of double entendres that strangely predict Durk's future, where he raps that his lyrics are so good that they're a cheat code, and he then likens putting out hit records to paying for hits on people, saying that he puts out so many hits that he could be facing RICO charges, topping it off with the lines, and another one, and another one. Now normally you might chalk this up to coincidence, but then again this is J. Cole, whose lyrical ability is much higher than your average drill rapper. And it really wouldn't surprise me if J. Cole felt daring enough to slip in a little double entendre like this to hint to the world that he knew what Durk was getting up to away from the microphone, and using this line to paint a picture of Durk and J. Cole's contrasting verses and lifestyles, which is really the deeper meaning of the song. On the next track, Never Again, Durk just jumps straight out the window with the self-snitching again, rapping on his second verse that he sends shots when he comes to the city, but he shoots with his money, and that Big Threat or OTFDD is going to protect him. Track 5, Put 'Em on Ice, had a title seemingly alluding to murder and a menacing hook where he repeats that he told him ain't nobody safe. Track 6, Big Dog with Chief Wook, would see Durk saying that one person can't stop the killings and that his money talks in the streets, and later rapping that he can't be told what to do by anyone. He's with the murders and he stands by what he's done. On track 7, Never Imagined, another collaboration with Future, just like he did on Mad Max, Future would seemingly be rapping bars that described Durk's situation perfectly, with lines about having shooters ready to kill for him, saying that he has demons that he sends on hits to have people killed for less than the price of a car, and seemingly describing Durk's own career, saying that once he started making millions, people began getting killed, as Future would drop a chilling bar where he would essentially admit to paying for the murder, saying that all it takes is a little money, or manyan, to have an enemy killed, or more specifically, knocked out of his shoes. The detail about shoes being particularly dark, as it appeared to reference the state of the crime scene after Lil Pab's murder, with his shoes being seen lying on the ground. But if Future saying it wasn't enough, Durk would then go on to say the very same thing himself 3 tracks later on perhaps the most disrespectful song in this beef. But before that, Durk would rap openly on Never Imagined about telling his young'uns to catch body after body. And in another line that would echo his potential future years behind bars, Durk raps how he gave the streets more than he did his own kids. Track 9 saw Durk referencing his Muslim faith in a questionable way. The song before Fajr, referring to the prayer, sees him immediately opening the song with what seemed like a tasteless reference to being able to watch the footage of Pab dying and Quando screaming every day, going on with a bar that's probably aimed at Quando, saying that it must have given him a headache because he knows that he looked at that clip and that Pab's head looked fake. This referring to the gruesome uncensored footage of the murder that showed Pab's fatal injuries. To be honest, Durk kind of makes a mockery of his religion in this song, and I've got to call it out, because at one point he raps about how one of his young'uns chases his ops around before going to prayer, and just making a prayer from the Quran the title of a track that's all about killing people and making fun of them, pretty blasphemous if you ask me, to be honest. There's actually one very strange bar where Durk says that Chief Wook has seen him knock someone's mother down, and whilst this could be an innocent reference to Durk hooking up with his ops baby mama, because he's talking so hot on these songs, there's part of me that feels like it could be referring to something much worse. It almost made me think back to that murder case on that woman, Shanita Lawrence, that was killed. Anyway, Durk paints a picture of how he vets shooters in his neighborhood, asking members who their top killer is and offering to check their temperature and vet their body count. He rapped about an off being left leaking with shots to their torso, and he goes on to reference OTFDD, saying that when he beats his murder, he's going to be even more dangerous. Durk would end the song with more brutal lyrics referring to ops being murdered, saying how somebody would still be alive right now if someone else got it, which seems to me to be a clever way of saying that the wrong person got killed, but Durk doesn't care either way, and ending with a final bar saying that he's seen his shooter hold his breath for 8 minutes, and warning his ops that that's how long they're willing to chase them for. Track 10 on Almost Healed is the most brutal track, War About It, and in the song, Durk appears to get 21 Savage in on the action too, mercilessly dissing Quando and mocking his reaction to Pam's death, screaming no on the hook of the song. And Durk goes on to break down his apparent strategy of grooming new shooters from his block, rapping that he sends his shooters money and clarifying that it's not for promotion for his album and that he doesn't expect people to shoot for him without paying them, even saying that he brings his trusted shooters around his family and children and gives them power before asking them to go and shoot his ops. Durk will seemingly claim to be the ringmaster of the weapons being used by his gang, saying that he swapped guns with another block and he didn't even shoot one himself. Then, in an apparent reference to both Youngboy and Quando's videotaped reaction to Pab's death, he raps that Youngboy must have heard Quando scream screaming on the news and likely had to turn the sound off on the disturbing clip, and later rapping that he spends hundreds of thousands on lawyers for his people, even saying that he can't name certain things he was responsible for, but then saying he makes his mother proud, perhaps a reference to avenging his brother's death. Even appearing to reference Lil Pab not being in his shoes at the time of the murder, saying that one of his shooters bragged about leaving an op outside in their socks. A truly disturbing lyric when you remember that's exactly what people saw on the news. Even 21 Savage would rub the tragedy in Quando's face on this song, starting his verse with the heartless bar, knock 'em all down like dominoes, later saying he's OTF for life, and seemingly saying to Durk that if he catches a murder, don't even tell him about it, as well as referencing following ops closely in traffic. The next track had the ominous title You Got 'Em, and on it, Durk raps how he gets his shooters in a car and tells them to spin repeatedly, and that sometimes it results in accidents, perhaps a reference to the wrong person being killed. Later, he says that he gets a certain reaction and that he keeps his murderers happy. On the next song, Grandson, a banger with Kodak Black that's a tribute to King Von, with Kodak boldly saying that he's a rapper and a killer, just like Von, Durk would rap on the hook that he will shoot somebody and feel like Von afterwards, and in his verse he raps about keeping his shooters fed. On the next song, 300 Euros, Durk seems to predict his own future, rapping that he has to watch what he says in songs or he'll be doing decades in prison like his father, and saying that they do people dirty in the streets and that he hopes he doesn't get killed as gruesomely as his enemies did, and how his shooters don't need to dress well and can still kill people wearing their Crocs. Durk had a bar that appeared to aim at Quando Rondo again, saying how his friend is dead and he can't do shows, and Durk would then say a very ironic line that he doesn't tell his shooters to be careful because they don't slide to get caught, as well as saying that somebody froze when a shooter pulled up with a micro Drake and that his ops can't play with him because he has money and will catch them. Durk then seems to clap back at NBA Youngboy with a lyric where he refers to himself as Murder Man or Merc, then backtracking saying they call him nothing because he's getting watched. This is clearly a shot at Youngboy. As I broke down in my 6-hour video on him, he often alludes to having used his money to have people killed in his gang war in Baton Rouge, with Youngboy frequently referring to himself as Murder Man in numerous songs. On track 14, Durk would rap about somebody's friend dying because they jumped in front of the firing line and saved the target's life, another reference to Quando and Pab, with Durk going on to reference Quando's reaction, saying they laughed when Von died, but when Pab died, Quando turned into a crybaby, and ending his final verse with another direct reference to the death of Pab in California, rapping that Rob49 saw that he had 4 guns in his house in LA and that California has real killers there. On the next track, B12, Durk would start off with a playful but real bar, saying that when people catch murder cases they call Meek Mill since he managed to get out of his probation. Then Durk would strangely say that he doesn't put his name on hits, and seemingly denying that his crew kill people, saying why are you bragging, they didn't kill anyone, before then backtracking and saying someone hopped out on feet like they're out of gas. Yet another slick double entendre that also hinted towards the gas station being the location for these murders committed on foot. Later in the track, Durk would refer to using cash to pay for an unnamed service while his card is on file, going on to say that he gave someone chances and pounds of dope to do something, but they still haven't done it, and now the cops are watching, he has to bury his desires and not finish the job, but later rapping that his budget for killings is $2 million and that his killers are actively out looking to collect the bounties, with this probably having a double meaning, referring to the bond money that he puts down if his killers get caught to get them right back on the street sliding again. Durk following that up with a line about how he got someone's location but knows they're not home, and going on to rap that they got who they wanted, so it's over now, and bragging that he's paid for a couple of trials for his members. Later, on a collab track with Juice WRLD, Durk has a strange change of heart, suddenly saying that he hates the trolling they do when you die. Then, in another violent song with a delightful title, Belt 2, Durk would rap openly about being at the private jet airport with a killer, and later saying that he feels he always has to react to what he sees on the internet. Then there's another line with a double meaning, as Durk says that he tried to go pop star but had to F up the streets, referring to both evolving his musical style and his inability to focus on his music career, distracted by the gang politics. The penultimate track on the project would be the Morgan Wallen assisted pop song, Stand By Me. But again, it's another emotional song that has a lot of foreshadowing of what was to come for Durk, as Durk seemingly raps and sings ambiguously with Morgan Wallen on the theme of asking if a friend or woman would stand by them in hard times. For example, if they lost everything, or caught a federal case for murder for hire. The song is a fitting note to end on, and it lands powerfully now that we know where Durk ultimately ended up. But for now, it would be some time before Durk's alleged past would catch up with him. And going forward from this project and its massive success, Durk would do everything he could to maintain his position as a mainstream pop artist, attempting to transcend the violent image of drill music and elevate himself into high society. Before the release of Almost Healed, Durk would meet with Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, and during the subsequent elections, Durk would make a $150,000 campaign donation to future Mayor Brandon Johnson. From the outside, it looked like Durk was a million miles away from the streets and having hits planned. He continued rolling in the circles at the very top of the music industry, in August walking out Drake for his Los Angeles set of his It's All a Blur stadium tour. But behind it all, Lil Durk was living a lie. One minute he was in the halls of political power, rubbing shoulders with current and future mayors. The next, he was in the studio, surrounded by his OTF demons, making some of the most violent and incriminating music ever released. And Durk's next music project would see him yet again shining a spotlight on some of the very people allegedly orchestrating murders for him. November the 17th, 2023, Durk and OTF released another group album, Nightmares in the Trenches. And it would seem that even the album cover itself had a hidden message of self-snitching on it. The label saying that this disc contained contains raw accounts of activities that occurred in various areas of the world. It doesn't say these are fictional stories or that the guns are props. This is hinting that this is a raw and a real explanation of things that actually happened. If you ask me, the part about all areas of the world is another covert hint towards that murder happening in California, rather than saying something like these are stories about the streets of Chicago. On the project, Durk would rap about Dee Dee beating his body with witnesses testifying. Durk would shout out one rap YouTuber that he respects, 1090 Jake, saying that he shows his videos about people being snitched onto his people and warning people against trolling him and acting like OTF are down on the gang. Later on the song posted out with Kokilla and Bezu, Bezu would ironically diss OTF accidentally, saying that you're not a real killer if you catch an accidental body, with Kokilla later rapping how they take ops souls and how he smokes dead ops with Dee Dee. Later on, Bezu would claim to have made the score 3-0, inferring that he has 3 bodies, saying that he beat them because he doesn't leave a witness. Kokilla would rap about people getting shot, their friends dying, and crying about it. Then on the Durk solo track Them Ones, he predicts his future again, saying that the judge might put a RICO case on him because of the people he's around, with Durk later bragging that people are mad that his music career is going so well since he's promoting revenge. Durk would rap a spooky bar on the hook that I think is aimed at Quando too, since his career had been struggling even before the death of Von, with Durk rapping he ain't turned no more, and that Durk in contrast can't run out of money. A bar that's a lot more threatening when you remember the deadly violence that he seems to be able to buy with his money. The next track, I'm the Type, sees Durk and Chief Wook rapping with arrogance, pretty much saying that they invented murders. Durk begins his verse with a brazen line, making gun sounds and taunting his victims, saying, "You ain't think I was gonna get you, did you?" Following that up, pretty much Pab murder, saying share locations, get up on him close, make his mental wiggle. Durk then hints at revenge, suggesting that his enemies are the type to see their friends get killed and not get revenge, unlike him, who's up late, plotting on his enemies, appearing to suggest that he's actually done this 9 times. In another line, Durk breaks down the process of having people murdered, saying that first he threatens them, then someone runs up on them and shoots, and that he's the messenger. A detail that hits different when you later learn that he was indeed using Apple iMessage to orchestrate an alleged hit. Durk even reflects on remorse, saying that after he's had someone killed, he then wonders if he's screwing up the blessing of his music career, then ending his verse recounting a conversation with God where he says that he had to do it because he caught his op slipping and moving like Durk wasn't beefing them. On the next song, titled Last One, this was an interesting track that saw Doody Low expressing his frustrations at the street life, saying that the last hit his gang did he can't talk about because the feds are indicting people, and that the last hit was so brutal he can't leave his home without a gun himself now. Then appearing to reference Pab's murder, saying the last person got caught out of town and that their target didn't get hit but doesn't come outside anymore. Doody Low would also express his opinion on the YouTube and vlog space becoming full of figures from Chicago streets, with Doody saying that his ops are vloggers now, perhaps a reference to anyone from FYB J Main, King Yella, or FBG Butter. Doody Low would even reference an infamous YouTube channel, Chicago Rarest, known for posting body cam and prison footage exposing Chicago gangsters. Doody would continue to allude to paid hits, saying that he has 20k in bounties out and saying that people got killed for dropping diss songs, and that he's laughing now that getbacks have been administered. Next, on the track F It, Durk mocks people trying to get attention off murders they didn't actually do. Durk would later say that this death is a celebration and that he knows the right way to do people, as well as saying that his shooters will cut off their ankle monitors and hop on flights without standing warrants, with Durk dropping a very subliminal line saying that you can pass the message to him to me, this ain't what you want. Now I think this is a deep bar because not only is that the name of Durk's song, but Lil Pab many years before being allegedly killed by shooters sent by Durk was actually a big fan of Durk's music, tweeting that Durk's This Ain't What You Want was one of his favorite songs. Durk would then reference OTF Jam, saying how serious he sounds when he's on the phone and that if he tells his shooters to do something he only has to ask once. The next track, Whatever You With OTF D-Ski, would see him openly talking about the violence, saying him and OTF are with all the violence. Later rapping how it only takes 10,000 to get someone's brain removed with a bullet, and saying that when he pops out, murders take place. The project would end on a strange note, as things switched tone and Durk dropped an introspective track that would speak to his future situation. The song Smirk Carter starts with an intro from Robert Shipp, his father's co-defendant, who explains that he thought he was supposed to die in jail but he got a second chance. Durk would rap about his brother Dethan gambling with his life and losing by not having a gun with him when he was killed, and again seeming to suggest that that murder was avenged, before going on to say that someone he knows got hit with a racketeering charge despite him warning them to move differently. Clearly, no one was advising Durk not to snitch on himself. If anything, this formula was working perfectly for Durk, just like it did for his evil twin King Von. Ultimately, things were moving fast and going very well for OTF at this point, but it had now been over a year of self-incrimination, and the Lil Pab murder was likely being investigated deeply for some time. After all, it took over a year for Durk's killers to be brought to justice, but they all were eventually caught. Soon, the walls would begin closing in on Durk and his crew, but the fall of Durk was an interesting one, as coming at the end of 2024, arguably the best year of his career, it almost seemed as if the feds let Durk climb to the very top of the mountain before grabbing him and lining him up for one of the most devastating downfalls in hip-hop history.